Hello.
Good evening, everyone. So, thank you for your time here, firstly. And I'm delighted to host this session on the topic Reimagining Mobility 2030, driving India's auto transformation with technology, sustainability, and new consumer realities. As we all know, that India aspires to be a $5 trillion economy, one of the legacy sectors that has transformed the fastest is automotive. And automotive sector is witnessing once in a lifetime kind of a shift from internal combustion engine vehicles to electric vehicles, embracing AI to software-defined vehicles, and shifting from traditional ownership models to shared, connected, and sustainable mobility ecosystems. But as we look ahead, the road to 2030, there's several questions that come to our mind. One of it is our policies and infrastructure evolving fast enough to support this transformation? How are the technology, sustainability, and new consumer expectations reshaping business models? And what role will collaborations across government, industry, startups, and investors play in defining the future of Indian auto sector? To discuss some of these questions, we have eminent panel over here. So I'll quickly dive into the panel and ask few of the questions. I'll start with you by asking, when you imagine mobility by 2030, what does the mobility look like to you, and which technologies like EV, hybrid, hydrogen, or which technology do you see dominating the future by 2030? So I'll start with you.
Thanks. Well, if I knew the exact answer, I'll be a billionaire, right?
Okay.
Because I'll invest in those technologies. So this is going to be a little fluid, but essentially what's happening right now, the way I kind of look at it is, automotive is going to change in four parallels. There are going to be four parallences. Some people call it case. Some people call it ACEs. I call it ACEs. ACEs is autonomous, connected, electrified, and subscribed. That's the way we're actually looking at that's the paradigm with which we automotive will shift. I mean, some of them may be bigger. I mean, like you mentioned, electrified, mildly put, everything from smart hybrid to electrified to hydrogen to within electrified. I don't know which battery technology is going to win it. Is it going to be our current set of technologies? Is it going to be graphene? Is it going to be XYZ that is coming through right now? So there's plenty of dollars that's put up at stake for all of this. But what I can just tell you, the big shift that I look at it is automotive between now and 2030 will change more in the next 5 years than it's changed in the last 50. So the amount of change that's anticipated within ACEs is going to be so significant that people who don't get attuned with the new world will stay behind, and these changes are they're there to stay. You will see new business models, you will see new players, you will see government intervention at a very different level, and you will also see the way the environment reacts to it. Because a lot of the work that will happen in the next 5-7 years will be how the environment reacts to that change. So yeah, I mean, a few of us, our jobs are safe, and for a few of us, our jobs are not safe. Because if we don't tune up, if your engine's not tuned correctly in the next 5 years, like you move from carburetor to MPFI, that was a significant change. Your engine won't survive this change.
Okay, so we're going to witness a major shift in the next 5 years. That's what you're saying. But Nimish, before I come to you, I'll go across to Amit, who has joined us virtually. Amit, if you can give us the overall, your opening comments. If you imagine mobility by 2030, what does it look to you, and which technologies do you see dominating the future?
Hello everyone, and congratulations to the winners of the event from what all has transpired during the day. Seemed like a fairly interesting agenda. I do agree with the views shared earlier. I think the way 2030 would pan out, in the current era, given the different technologies that are playing a role here, I think it will be difficult to pin it down to a specific technology as such. Having said that, I think there is going to be a fair bit of adoption that would happen when it comes to the alternate technology side of it. While we have the traditional setups, the traditional, petrol diesel powertrain, which shall exist. I mean, it will taper down over time, but be it the EV side of things, be it hydrogen, all of those technologies and a few others are expected to play a role. I think, having said that, within the different technologies, I think EV per se may take shape faster. The targets, while the targets are about almost 30% penetration, I don't think that's what we're going to reach by then. But having said that, with the specific technologies within EV playing out, I would say that we should be bullish on electric batteries ramping up considerably higher compared to some of the other technologies.
All right. So you say majorly electric is the future, but Nimish, what are your views? How do you see the future?
I think I clearly see it going the electric way, because the way electric has evolved over the last 5 7 years, and the way we have seen disruptions happening on the technological side in terms of the batteries getting better, in terms of the ranges getting better, you don't see other technologies doing that far better as of now proven on the road. So you have EVs which are actually proven on the ground, and I really see for 2030, which is a smaller period time, EVs are going to be the talking point. So yes, surely yes, there's going to be a lot of disruptions in terms of the BMS and other related things as well. But for now, I would say that we have to stay focused on the EV side, while other innovations will continue to keep happening. But for now, the focus for India, so to say, on 2030, the take would be on the EV side. That's what I have my limited point to make there.
Natwar, what do you think? You were with Hyundai, so how do you see the Hyundai moving towards the future?
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, the auto industry is seeing a 100 years paradigm change, the way it works, the way the business is. So having said this, next 2030, it's still predictable. It's not so clear and predictable, but we're all there. In simple terms, it is going to be game for all. It definitely, you will see high penetration because you're comparing the 1% going to 5% and 5% going to 10% on EV. You will see a high penetration over there, but it's going to be a game for all. So you have to have a balanced mix of ICE, hybrid, hydrogen, electric, and all. So, and very important is how you have leveraged your business plan, your business model to sustain it, and sustainability would be a key factor. Don't forget to understand the power energy does play a key role, and the geopolitical scenario will drift the prices of the fuels too. So it determines on the situation where we are in 2030, but it's important that you got to be very fluid to understand where and what situations you should be ready for anything. But yes, the game for all. That's my meaning.
We should be ready for anything. But Poonam, what do you think the OEM should be moving towards? What are your views?
Okay, so maybe I am more coming in from the rating angle. I see it little differently. I am seeing Indian mobility by 2030 to be beyond vehicles and having a full ecosystem of cleaner fuels, a dense charging network, and then a connected infrastructure. All of this is something which is going to be very critical when we really talk about the Indian mobility. Electrification definitely is going to be there across segments, but definitely I still see there is long way to go when it comes to the passenger vehicle side, because there I think it will still be a bit of a gap than what we are really envisaging, and that's where the hybrids may really come in from that side. Any one specific technology, I think that what I am envisaging will be a mix of multiple technologies for us to really achieve what we are talking about, a sustainable and digital, and then the consumer centric mobility that we are talking about. So little different, but that is how I see the Indian mobility by 2030.
So majorly all the panelists here spoke about that it will be a mix of all the technologies, but EVs has emerged as one of the major focus. So Amit, how do you see the pace of EV adoption as of yet, especially for commercial vehicles? How do you see the EV adoption growing?
Yeah, so I would like to break it into segments, right? If I look at buses, I think the adoption has been faster. Would be fair to take it that we should be reaching about 15% or so, give or take few basis points, 15% or so by 2030. Having said that, if I look at purely on the, state-run STU buses, there I would say that the penetration may actually even get north of 35%. So which is good. Now coming to the truck segment, I think when you're looking at the heavy segment there, in there about 2030 maybe about 5% penetration. Having said that, again, use cases which are more to do with closed loop. Let's take cement, let's take steel, and a few of those. That I think is where one can even expect penetration going up to all the way up to 20%. So it's a very segment level answer, which is very much based on the specific use case and the application. And of
So,
course, the
so
government
as
also.
Amit also mentioned that he sees the penetration going up to 20%, but government has set the aim of 30% penetration by 2030. How do you see the pace, and do you think that aim is achievable, or what are your views?
It's a number on an Excel sheet. The government's already offered plenty of supply side incentives, PLI, etc. Tomorrow they offer a demand side incentive. GST goes down to 0%, etc. on EVs. You can hit that ball. You can hit the ball out of the park. I don't think the penetration number is what is important. I mean, just for this audience over here, the gentleman sitting to my, we're talking about change here, right? Who will get that change? The gentleman sitting on my left over here. 5 years back, could any one of you have predicted that he will own 2,000 electric vehicle cars, in which all of you will be riding in Delhi? None of you will be owning it. You will all be paying him a per ride cost, or he'll be working on a B2B model wherein he's providing 500 cars, 700 cars to a corporate working electric vehicles. Tomorrow, 30% is possible. He just needs to get a private equity to invest in him and say that, why don't you go ahead and buy 20,000 cars? And there you go. That's the road to 30%, right? Yeah. So essentially, you have to look at it from a lens to say that, how does it make practical sense for that business to evolve? Now, I think the bigger change that you got to understand is, I came dressed for 40 under 40 so that I can blend into the 40 under 40 crowd here. But I think the big change that I'm anticipating is not just from a product perspective, but a lot of these products will be put into services. Like he doesn't make anything. He doesn't make any car. He doesn't make any electric vehicle. He doesn't make any battery. He doesn't make any BMS. But he still runs a business of, I don't know how many, 2,000, 2,500, about 1,000 cars, right? 1,000 electric vehicle cars. So I think a lot of the new generation is moving from owning products to owning services. The pattern of ownership is anticipated to change. So it will go away from ownership to usership. So somebody like him could say that, I can go and increase my business from 1,000 electric cars to 30,000 electric cars by getting himself funded through a private equity. And then your 30% target is back on game, right? So I don't think it's the exact number to my mind that is important. And I really love the point, I'm going to pick his point on circularity, right? What happens with an electric vehicle is, look at a three-wheeler, for example. Three-wheeler can be an electric, can be an ICE. Why does the electric vehicle make sense? Because the minute you drive more than 80 kilometers per day, that three-wheeler, instead of getting to a certain rupees per kilometer, drops by like 30%. So it becomes, so anywhere where there is a closed loop of operations, where somebody's going to start from where we are and in the evening come back and finish where we are because he has a fixed charging spot available to him, the business makes sense. Anywhere where the asset ownership of the product leads to revenue, you will see electrification happen first. So when you look at the pyramid, where is the asset ownership of a product leading to revenue? People like him, fleet, right? Fleet will get electrified, but somebody who only drives a car, say 5 kilometers a day from his house to his place of work and then comes back home, would he want to get electrified up front? Maybe no. He would say, it doesn't make sense for me to pay 50% more for an electric vehicle right now. I would rather wait to a point in time wherein I have to drive 80 kilometers a day or 90 kilometers a day. So it will actually go down from product ownership to usership It will actually be where there is a closed loop use, wherein the product is tied to a revenue source that will get electrified, and eventually it'll be demand side incentives from the government. Depends on how seriously the government wants to reduce their how many petrodollars they want to save by saying, please, I don't want to pay Saudi Arabia, I may as well pay somebody else to buy lithium from them.
So majorly you're saying that government is being over ambitious. What I summation can.
Please, I'm saying nothing of that sort. I think the ambition level of the government, to my mind, is great.
Okay.
If they don't think, who else will? Technically, the government's job is to think big, is to think and then put in things. I mean, look at what they've done with GST recently, right? They've just propelled the whole car industry quite tremendously. So, to my mind, it is in the government's financial. If you think of the government as a business, it's in their financial interest to move to EVs because they'll save so many petrodollars that they have to give out. It's as simple as that. So they will definitely go all out and try and see how many more electric vehicle products they can get on the street.
All right. So Nimish, Som spoke about your business. So fleets come with its.
So Som has actually spoken on my behalf. Thank you for that. So
I just need to get my marketing piece.
yes, absolutely.
Sure. So running an EV fleets come with own challenges. So if you can elaborate, what operational challenges do you face daily?
So I'll just like to elaborate on what Som just made a point quickly. Now we've seen a shift of generation. If you go 10 years back, 15 years back, the first thing that someone who starts a job would want to have a car. No, that's the first statement that you wanted to make, which is not the case with the generation right now. Now, please remember, we are currently about 65% under 35 years. Okay, so that's driving the sentiment out there. Who says it's not an asset for me? Yeah, I've got to service it. I've got to take it to the service station. I've got to put in fuel. I rather have someone who can just someone like me whom I pay and I use, right? And there's a whole amount of consciousness around the service, because when you're driving for yourself and when you've been driven by someone, the expectations changes, right? So with the change in the overall sentiment in terms of whether you want to spend that money on acquiring an asset which eventually turns out to be a liability, or you want to spend it on your lifestyle. So the current youth says, I would rather spend it on my lifestyle and probably spend some more little money and invest in my mutual funds or in SIPs and have my dream car later. Okay, so that's the shift that has happened in terms of the consumer psyche, so to say. Now, in terms of challenges, like we've seen, we've been operating since 2019 in Delhi NCR, when we had cars which would run from, which had a range of about 80 kilometers, and there were just two variants available in the market. And Delhi NCR would have close to about 60 charging stations, of which only 30 would work, right? And you don't have drivers who would understand auto transmission. They're more used to manual transmissions. So there was a whole lot of journey that we have covered. And this journey from there we have covered, today we have a range of about 500 kilometers a car. In Delhi NCR, you've got about close to 4,000, plus 4,000 charging points available right now. Yes, there are challenges which we keep facing in terms of the battery performance. The battery performance also has improvised over a period of time. If you really see, with a 3-year warranty, now we're getting a 6-year warranty covered in the insurance as well. But still, there are a lot of challenges in terms of the predictability of the technology. Technology still is not predictable because we've only seen very few OEMs coming up with the products. If we have more OEMs and there are more test use cases on the ground, that is where we'll say that yes, this is a more predictable technology in terms of the battery and the performance of the car. Okay. So one is that predictability challenge. Two, which is more on an operating side, I would say a very basic core thing. If you have a small error in your car, you would probably go somewhere, someone across the road, the mechanic out there, wo aapka sab kuch theek kar dega and you're done and dusted. But out here, you've got to take it to the workshop. Okay. Now, workshops have their own limited capacities. While we've probably have about 1,000 cars, but then workshops are limited, and they have their own efficiencies to handle. So, for a fleet operator like me, if my one car is off the road for about 8 to 10 days, it's a massive loss. I think that part is somewhere where OEMs will need to work and collaborate with us more, which they are doing right now. But yes, still, I think that's a journey that still needs more focus. And two, I think I have been really listening a lot about charging infra. Charging infra, I'm sure as a fleet, we have our own internal uh, charging infra, where we own captive charging infra. We have on-go charging tie-ups as well. But yes, there is a range anxiety to be dealt with. There's a range anxiety to be dealt with, even with the drivers and also on a private user. You just don't know whether I have to take a detour, whether I'll get a charging point or not. So my driver, if he sees the range at 40 kilometer, 40, he would still say, I would want to come back home and charge. So that's the more operating challenge that I see on the ground.
So overall, what you say is the consumer psyche is changing. So Poonam, what is your take? Previously, we used to say hardware on wheels. Now we say it software on wheels. How do you see the consumer psyche changing in terms of that? How do you see the trends changing there?
I definitely see that the value curve will shift towards the software for sure. Because that is what will be a differentiating factor if you ask me. Maybe when it comes to the mass segment, there I still see on the passenger vehicle side, there I think still the cost of ownership is something that will still influence the buying decision for the consumers at large. But then at the end of the day, what is going to be the real differentiation, if we ask about, or so to say a moat that that talks about the brand, is going to be the kind of software service or the enhanced software and the services that the OEMs are really providing. We are talking about premiumization. So I think that is where the enhancement of the software and the services will go nowhere. It is going to stay, and that is how is where the OEMs will be able to encash when it comes to the premium side. Otherwise, I think it just ends over there.
All right. So another topic that we're going to see in coming years by 2030 is the BS7 norms that the government is actively promoting and is thinking to roll out by 2027, by so to say. So Amit, if you can say, how do you see the norms rolling out for the commercial vehicle fleet, and what are your take on it?
So you're talking in terms of the norms.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, not much to say there, right? What at least from our perspective, we can say that if there are norms that are going to be something that need to be taken into account, we shall do that. Of course, there has to be a certain pathway towards it, which will have to be followed, and that has been. It's not the first time that we've been seeing some change in norms happening. You need to make sure that your technology at all points in time is fairly adept to do that. So OEMs, I think at large, have to take preemptive steps, and so shall we. When it comes to that stage where there are any changes which are impending.
Okay. Poonam, so how do you see that financially? Because moving towards BS7 norms, that will require massive capital for OEMs. How do you see that financially for OEMs?
See, we are yet assessing this, but the way we have analyzed it so far, if BS7 are going to be almost equivalent to what we are seeing as Euro 7 norms, then definitely the investment per vehicle that will be needed is going to be massive. But then if you ask from the OEM perspective, can they absorb this cost? Definitely. The way we are seeing is a part of it can easily be absorbed by re-engineering some of the existing platforms. And then to some extent, they will have to pass it on in the form of cost or the price hikes that will have to be taken, which has been the case in the past. When it comes to funding, they can easily fund it. The biggest concern or the thing that will be critical is the timing. Because we are talking about CAFE 3 norms also, which are likely to come in. We are also talking about BS7 norms. Now, if they both get time, then they both are going to get implemented at the same time. Definitely, it could strain the cash flows. I won't say from the internal accruals because financially, most OEMs are very strong and healthy. So that's not really a concern. But it's the free cash flow that is what will get strained. So the way we are seeing, if it is all staggered way that if it will come, then definitely it's not something that OEMs can't absorb it. That is how we are seeing it, and that is what will become most critical, which will need to be watched in the time to come, because it's still some time away. It's not something which is happening. I'm sure even government is watching that, so that is how it will depend.
All right, so that's the time to tell. But Natwar, how do you see one of the major challenges that we see today in the Indian auto sector? moving towards these technologies is the skill gap. We don't have enough workforce to handle all these technologies. You heading the vertical at the for people strategy. How do you see that shift and amongst the workforce?
First of all, electric, given an example of electric, is just a new normal now. It's not anymore emerging as a mainstream for most of our OEMs now. Point number one. Point number two is, yes, so when you look at the shop floor levels, when we hire flexi trainees, we hire apprentices, you still have courses which are at the ITI level, which are more mechanical diesel. You don't see courses which are on electrical. But eventually all this is being changing, so change has to come in very organic. But the manufacturers, the institutions and academies are working together and partnering it in building that content when it comes to the larger workforce which is on the shop floor. That's where the whole skill gap comes from. But let me put that very clear. But having said that, this change of having electric, of talking about AI is being, while there's very disruptive the way the product looks like, but this has not had a major impact on the automotive organizations. Let me put that very forward. Let's say I have an engine shop, right, with manufacturing engine. Eventually I'll have to have, when I move to EV cars, I need to have motors. So most of the products, it's like that your entire engine is out. So just imagine a life of a person who has spent all across with building those engines. So, but it's not going to be as disruptive because today you're facilitated with technology. And let me be very clear that today in our shop floors, there's extremely smart floors. We have data engineers, we have data scientists right on the shop floor, so we know what's going on the floor. And that is an absolutely, we have organically prepared our workforce to transform, to manage the latest technologies. Today I'm talking about technicians who were managing just the CNC machines are actually managing robots. They know how to tweak those robots too. So there has been a change, and this change has been come very organically. But the concern is what happens at the shop floor when you hire a lot of young workforce coming up in those apprentices and trainees. Those are playing a key role, and that's where most of the organizations, not limiting to Hyundai, but most of the organization is doing, going out of the territory and building that course and curriculum with academic tie-ups to ensure that the right blend of skills is there when they join the hands, build in the part of the product. So I think there's a gap, but this is not an area of concern at all.
There is a gap, but you mentioned about the AI. Do you see AI filling that gap, and what are the risks and challenges associated with AI?
There's no risk at all. I think AI is absolutely enabler. We have the AI we use in shop floors. I think this is something which is really scaling up, bringing a lot of efficiency on the table. So be it shop floor, be it the strategic work, be it office, be it all that what you do. I think AI has absolutely enabler for all of us. So giving you a very example, today products are, you have vision cameras, you have sensors, you have auto-populated, you are connected to AI machine learnings, which it understands, it takes decisions. So it's absolutely scaled up. For example, I'll give you, if you had the same workforce what we had a couple of years before, we have the same workforce now, but technology has improvised to that scale. It's helped us to scale up the production, bring it very fast. Today expectation is about in a minute 2 cars comes with the same quality levels. It's much more faster. We are extremely agile, and technology is helping that. So it's not a concern at all. It doesn't come from any risk.
Okay, so you see no risk with AI.
Not at all.
So what are your views? So you mentioned initially that the automotive industry is going to see a major shift in the coming 5 years that we have not seen in the past 50 years. So what shifts do you see? And we've also seen the GST rollout overall, that 2.0 that we've seen. How do you see that affecting in the coming years? And will we see the reduced price overall in the coming throughout years, or will we see some increased prices due to the BS7 norms and something?
It's a business, so business is very simple. There's demand and supply. Demand gets generated when the supply is available at a certain cost. If the cost goes down, demand goes up, and you'll see a small benefit of that coming through. I'm not saying that BS7 won't impact prices. I think BS7 will impact prices quite substantially. But I think, you know what, you got to look beyond short-term blips and long-term strategy. I mean, somebody asked you that question on software. I think, to my mind, what is available in your hand, which is a cell phone, is actually going to be more applicable as a technology product, even for somebody owning a car. Because you will have your car, right now, you have your car talk to your cell phone, Android Auto, Apple Care, all of that. But you will actually have your car talk to your home appliances, you will have your car talk to your office appliances, you will have your car talk to your cell phone, you'll be able to do all your banking in your car, you'll be able to see all your entertainment in the car, etc. So the role of a car will actually move from being just a people mover to actually being a enabler for life. And that's the way you look at it. Like your cell phone right now is pretty much an enabler for life, right? You make your payments through it, you make your phone calls through it, connectivity is through it. Similarly, a car will also become an extension of you. Your moving product will also become which is not today the case. So that's where the change will happen, right? Right now, when you're talking of an auto industry, you have somebody like me sitting in, you have an OEM sitting in. I can pretty much guarantee you 5 years down the line, when you do this exercise, you will have somebody from an Airtel sit in. You will have somebody from, maybe a ONGC or, one of those oil majors sit in. You will have somebody from real estate sit in over here, because the chargers have to be put up at a real estate spot, right? So the change will not just be related and respected only to automotive. The change is at a much more ecosystem level, and you have to think of it that how will your moving product just not move you, but actually help you live a better life. And that's the change that you have to anticipate, and that is where the big money will be played out. I don't think the big money is going to be played out under the hood. Where what happens is, traditionally, when you talk to any OEM in the last 50 years, 70 years, where have they put in the money? They've put in the money to make better engines, better carburetors, better MPFIs, better powertrain, better batteries. I think all the money has gone under the hood. I think in the next 5, 7 years, a lot of the money will go on the dashboard, right? People will be spending a lot more money on the dashboard with look and feel and access and all of that, rather than something which is under the hood. So that's the big change that is anticipated to impact the industry. So you'll have a very different panel 5, 7 years down the line, because that's the way the ecosystem will change.
All right. So running short on time, but one of the most important subject that we should be discussing is the e-waste. Nimish, we rolling out disposable.
Now, so we've been talking about reuse of the batteries, which is something where technology is evolving right now, and e-waste is going to be the next step, where how do you handle that eventually when it is out of life. So we've been all talking about the circular use of the batteries. So there is a lot of effort being made in terms of ensuring that how best these can have a longer life. They should have a longer life. Once they are used in the car, how can they be used in some other products? And post that, how can that entire thing be handled harmlessly as a waste, which I think is a journey that has to be traveled, and people are talking about it, but we've really not seen anything concrete happening on the ground. There are lot of efforts being made. There's a lot of innovation and technology work going around, but yes, eventually, so to say, on the e-waste handling is something which still needs a real focus. Yes, we can probably have an elongated lifetime of the battery, but yes, what happens at the end of it is still a question mark.
Poonam, what are your views? How do you see the e-waste management going up?
See, we are talking about EV adoption, which is going to rise. So, which basically means that batteries and electronic waste is definitely going to increase. So, having an e-waste management in place is critical and not really an optional thing for us. Uh, if you talk about, we already have something called as a battery waste management or rule kind of a thing in place, which government has already put in place, which basically says that there is a responsibility on the OEMs that where they will have to collect, recycle, and then even they have to intimate about it that what all has happened. Today, that is a very small variable. And I somewhere recall that at the end of the life cycle, what would really happen? So it's only when this stock will start piling up, is where this entire policies enforcement will get tested, and that is the time the scale or the way OEMs are today really focusing on or trying to really dwell what should be the end recyclability that should be done. I think that is where it will get tested. It is still some time away, but the good part is that at least everyone is aware of it, that it needs to be looked at, and government has already put a rule in place. So I think we'll have to figure out ways how it will really happen, but that would be something very important that can't be rolled out.
That can't be ruled out. We're running short on time, so I'd like to close this panel on this note. And thank you all for all your valuable insights. The road to 2030, I believe it's going to be not just defined by technology, but it's going to be how we align the policy, people, and purpose. With this note, I would like to end this session. Thank you so much all for joining.
congratulations to the winners. I think most of you we could meet online, and happy to see all of you today on the stage. We, on behalf of the entire jury panel, let's give a big round of applause to all of you who have made it happen. Thank you. Personally, there was a lot of learning for us also. That's what I said in the beginning, and for the noble cause of making 40 under 40, let's give a big round of applause to business world and team also. That should be a bigger round of applause for all of us. Whether I don't know whether it's a keynote address or whatsoever, so I think I should share my personal journey of 3 decades plus in the auto industry between both pass car as well as commercial vehicle, now into a full-time EV. Maybe I think all of you are from the automotive industry now, so maybe perhaps my address would talk in terms of how this leadership who have actually been recognized in the lovely forum here, how we can actually take it across to the next level, and also the kind of journey what we have taken during the process of selection as well. So, when this opportunity came to me, I said, first of all, being a chief jury is something like lifetime achievement award types. I mean, I've actually got to this level or not. But of course, being a 40 under 40 is an immense pride. We had a tough job, of course, which always every jury keeps saying about it. But there are certain few elements which we are looking out from each one of you. Some of the activities probably from the questions itself you would have understood. If you answered perhaps rightly, or maybe if you want to improve upon, I think this is the time to really move across. So it's, this is like a more than a window into an automotive destiny, I would say. This is the best period when a professional can actually move into the stepping stone of the faster track. This is what we have all gone through, and this period of time, whatever we are doing it right now, is going to help you in the next professional journey once you reach above 50. That's one of the areas. So while we were actually seeing this as a part of a jury membership also, we didn't want to stop on what they are doing it alone. It's about the design thinking, what's a global ambition, and also just not only probing what they have done, it's also in terms of credentials and what do they think. I think most of the questions have come, what do you think can India become 2047 in term as a part of Viksit Bharat, what your contribution can perhaps be also. So I think Make in India has been evolving, and off late plays a very important role. Those of you who are in the industry would know about what a small magnet called rare earth magnet, which we are not even aware till last year. I think now it becomes everybody's table room is full of these important minerals, and there are multiple more which we are extremely dependent on, certain part of politically difficulty. So from the world is flat perspective, I think world is actually getting converged into localized areas. So maybe at certain point of time, during COVID time, we already saw all those red and greens, and those who are, involved in this process, you would understand that between one state to other state, between one district to other district has become suddenly a problem. So I think as a whole industry, how we are evolving across is very important. And as our Honorable Prime Minister said, what is going to really make us better is to make in India. And in that, to make in India, it's not only about make in India, it's about designed in India and also built in India, and we keep exporting to others. That's all the difference between our immediate neighbor and the north, and who has actually proved their credentials, and we have a long way to go, and we should be able to do that also. The second aspect which we saw in the jury is also the kind of, the depth, confidence, the curiosity level, which was absolutely exhiberating by each one of you, and heartiest congratulations of it. And instead of that, questioning about the, instead of staying at the status quo, how each one of us can actually question ourselves to move to the next level. So probably I think that is one of the areas of how we can go to the next level. So I strongly believe that each and every organization should have a talent acceleration engine, and this could be led by each one of you in your own organization. In case if you take the lead, Many of the people are not knowing also these kind of things are existing. So probably going forward with everyone from the industry, we also saw that whether it is a small scale industry, medium scale, or a large scale, this was actually equally spread out. And there are very specific professionals also which got involved. I'm sure it's going to go up in a much more better way. During jury round, fairness was definitely not a just checkpoint. It's actually a basic fundamental principle. Those of us who know a little bit also, we never participated in the competition. I mean, we didn't even, give a score to the people, and that's what, how things have also happened. So each one of you would have actually seen the way how we played during this time on Sunday. How did we actually India play against our immediate neighbor on the west side, and each one of you know that how the boys have actually elevated themselves in a 15 days of a time. How can they actually prove time and again, irrespective of having so many other challenges on the other side as well. So probably the time has come to really come out of the inhibitions of how we can do much better. I think this gives the biggest platform to my mind. And at the end of the day, what really happens is, certain few important takeaways in terms of carry this award as a torch, but not as a trophy, first and foremost. So use this as in a bigger way. Mentor someone younger to you. I'm sure a lot of people will be there. Sponsor someone who's has not been heard so far. Voice is weak. Do not outsource your core differentiators to the competition very specifically. Build upon them and convert ourselves into in-house as well. Think global from day one, and probably this could be one of the days of which is changing. And India is your launch pad, not the horizon. So this is a very important point I keep saying. Adopt a mindset of continuous learning, and that's what we have also always been exhibiting. Build beyond silos. That's very important. We could actually see that people keep talking about their own area. This is a time to really come across in cross-functional, cross-domain knowledge goes ahead. And finally, hold yourselves accountable. First of all, for the ethicality. Very simple and very important, and also to the industry, to the nation, and the whole people of India. I think that's what the important thing which we thought it's critical on that. What are the opportunities which are possible? I think during your stage, a decade back, plus, we were not really having these many opportunities. We had only petrol and diesel only. You have to manage within this area. Fuel alone has got around 17 type of possible fuels have come. And the companies have started working on multiple methods of, we already heard from the panel, what all the avenues where is it. Probably this is one area we have to probably handpick and start working towards these directional things. I think anybody who has become technically qualified, technologically superior, as an individual or as a company, I think they'll be respected more in the country also going forward. I think we are all looking forward as a OEM. We look forward to a lot of partners like this who can actually do that. So, having worked in a company like Maruti and Hyundai, I could see that how the country and the nation are built together as a whole ecosystem. I think probably that is what, we need to do at this point of time. And maybe perhaps 30% of electrification maybe by 2030. If everything goes well, maybe hydrogen can take over sometime. If not, definitely LNG and the CNG will definitely take over. Connected cars will definitely take over. As what we are seeing it in the technological companies, like mobile companies are taking over in China, whether it is Huawei or, you talk about any of the top companies on that. I think that clearly indicates that the basic legacy is getting broken. And, instead of being a mere, service provider, more people have already become. And in that note, I think, when we meet again, maybe under 50 or something at certain point of time, next time when you guys, I'm sure BW will also plan for those kind of activities. When you guys come here, I think you should be able to talk about how we develop the country to the next level. I think that could be one of the important criteria. In that note, wishing you all the best, and God bless all of you. Thank you. Thank you so much indeed. Thank you.